In this video, I'm going to share a more personal story. Even though all dreams are personal, this one hits a little closer to home emotionally for a complex social situation I encountered a few years ago. I'm going to start by sharing the actual event, and then I'll share the dream that I discovered during a journal review just last night. The dream was from 2016, and the event occurred in 2018. Names have been changed to protect privacy. Kelly, one of my best friends, died of cancer in April of 2018. She was one of my dearest friends. We had been friends for almost 40 years and lived together in college for a couple of years in the early 80s. I had introduced her to her first husband, Joe, back in college. He and I had been set up on a blind date by a mutual friend shortly after my boyfriend at the time had broken up with me. I wasn't ready for a new relationship, so I happily introduced him to my girlfriend Kelly. They were madly in love and immediately inseparable and later married. I attended the wedding with my 2 small children. I had ended up marrying the guy who had broken up with me. But years later, they divorced and went their separate ways, although they remained very good friends. I also got divorced over 20 years ago. In July of 2018, Kelly's celebration of life was planned for a location in the Bay Area near San Francisco. I flew up and went to meet with her sisters, but was told they were going to dinner with Kelly's partner, Tim, who only wanted the family at dinner. Kelly's first husband, Joe, had arrived at the same time as me, and we decided to go get dinner together since we seemed to be uninvited from the group dinner. We were both surprised after traveling some distance and having been among Kelly's closest friends for 40 years, but we decided to make the best of it. We walked to a nearby restaurant and placed our order for dinner and began catching up and had a wonderful conversation. It was like we had a special connection that I wasn't aware of all that time. He was quick to share with me that it had hurt his feelings that I passed him on to my friend Kelly. We laughed. I didn't realize he had liked me so much, and I explained it wasn't personal, I just wasn't over my boyfriend at the time. And I reminded him that he and Kelly had hit it off so well, surely that was a good deal. After a few minutes, one of Kelly's sisters called me to say Kelly's partner Tim had a change of heart and wanted to invite us to their dinner after all. Joe and I looked at each other and shook our heads. No, we're staying here. We'll see you tomorrow. At one point during dinner, he seemed to look right into my soul. He leaned toward me and said he was having so much fun and told me how beautiful I was, and it made him want to kiss me. Well, I admit I was feeling some things too and caught off guard. I'd been single for a long time and hadn't even dated in years. It was completely out of left field to see Joe after all these years and hear him express that something was stirring there. He looked really good to me too. It seemed like a strange or awkward situation to be brought together at our dear friend's celebration of life event. The actual event was the next day, and Kelly's sisters and I took a ride to it at Treasure Island in Joe's Volkswagen van. It was a vintage bus, and he had restored it beautifully. I sat in front with him in the passenger seat, and we talked about his plans for how long he was going to stay in the area. During the event, we sat next to each other, and there was a constant flow of energy that seemed very natural, a kind of friendship connection that had spanned decades, and even though we had not been in touch since he and Kelly had divorced over 20 years ago. His surprising words kept running through my mind. I didn't know if after all this time he was interested in pursuing a relationship despite living 2 states away. The feelings we had over the loss of our friend Kelly were the main focus, and we were all in very deep grief over her passing. She was a wonderful person who left a big hole in our lives. Kelly's partner, Tim, had kept me from having a chance to say goodbye to her, and Tim had been unpleasant to Joe, and so when we all decided to get dinner together after the event, Joe gave Kelly's sisters and me a ride to the restaurant in his van, but then surprised us by saying he was going to leave then instead of having dinner with us. I had not given him enough indication that I wanted to continue our connection, and I think he wasn't prepared to say goodbye to me in front of Kelly's sister and partner, Tim, so he left. I was disappointed he left early, and there was no kiss goodbye. I had a deep sense of disappointment. Now I will share aspects of the dream that match this situation. Often I will find a match and the scenario is close but not exact, and I find that frequently I will see myself in a role that plays out as another person when it shows up in my waking life. But overall, the emotional content is the same, and select descriptions are similar if not spot on. I have chosen to give these as much credit as if the dream played out exactly as the event showed up in waking life. To me, it reflects a kind of fluid nature of our experience and being connected to others in ways we can't understand yet. By playing out their experience, I can experience their feelings as well as my own. It's just something that happens. Despite knowing the people who were involved in the event of the celebration of life, they did not show up in a way I would recognize them in the dream. In this case, none of the people were presented as the people I know. At times, I get frustrated by the lack of clarity that shows up in my dreams, but I think there are degrees of connection and elements of information that seem to be selective in terms of perhaps maintaining a level of surprise for me when the events finally play out in waking life, but I can't say for sure. I just know I have a gut feeling that the dream is related to the events from 2018. In the dream from May 2016, I was meeting a new guy who had a van. He was going somewhere with other people. We had just had a date, and he kissed me before he was going away. I was in his van with him and saying goodbye. I leaned over to kiss him goodbye, but he wouldn't kiss me in front of our friends, which was awkward. He said, "Next time." I felt a little embarrassed for having been turned down for a kiss. What stands out to me is that I don't have anyone else in my life that has a van, and none that I have taken a ride in. Here it says we had just had a date, the dinner we had together the night before the celebration of life, and while we did not have an actual kiss, he told me he wanted to kiss me, which evoked an emotional response of surprise and shock that I was open to, that had he pursued it. We took a ride in the van with friends, and when Joe said he was leaving after dropping us off at the restaurant, I stood there in shock and disappointment that our reunion was being cut short and there was not going to be a kiss after all. He went on to meet someone else when he returned home, and the opportunity for further connection passed. If you would like to learn more about my story, check out my book, Sleeping with Spirit, A Journey with Psychic Dreams. I'll drop a link to it in the description below. If you want to see more videos like this one, please support my channel by liking and subscribing. Hit that subscribe button now. If you would like help with dream recall, so you can record your dreams, check out my video 10 Ways to Improve Dream Recall. You never know, writing your dreams down can reveal interesting connections even years later. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Sweet dreams.